Welcome to the Orient Brief. I'm your host, Ahmetcan Uzlaşık. Today, we confront one of the most pressing crises of our time, femicide. This isn't just a personal or cultural issue. It's a systemic failure that demands action. Together, we will unpack how change must begin at home. As we step into 2025, we're surrounded by countless debates and challenges. But there are also difficult truths that remain unspoken. One of those truths is the devastating rise in femicides and suspicious female deaths in Turkey. Femicides in Turkey reached their highest level in 2024. It's not just about statistics. It's about real lives lost, a system failing to protect, and a cry for justice that still resonates. In 2024, according to the We Will Stop Femicide platform's annual report, 394 women were murdered by men, and 259 others were found dead under suspicious circumstances. These numbers, the highest since the platform started tracking femicides in 2010, expose a troubling reality: systemic failures and dangerous societal attitudes that continue to put women's lives at risk. Looking back, in 2011, Turkey signed the Istanbul Convention, and for a brief moment, we saw femicide rates drop. But since withdrawing from that agreement and weakening critical laws like Law 6284, designed to protect women, the situation has only gotten worse. In 2024, an alarming 280 women were killed by their husbands, fathers, sons, or other male relatives. Their homes, which should have been their sanctuary, became the sites of nearly 60% of these crimes. And the violence, over half of these women, 222 of them, were murdered with firearms, which indicates another alarming topic: illegal individual armament. But that's a topic for another day. Behind these chilling numbers, there are real stories, like the 19 girls that were killed by their fathers, 9 of whom were killed along with their mothers, or the 20 women who had protection orders. Yet, these orders went unheeded, leaving them vulnerable. In these cases, the system failed to protect them, and those who should have acted instead allowed violence to continue. The government claims to be making strides by setting up new units to combat gender-based violence. But as the numbers suggest, we are far from seeing the changes that are needed. Now, let's hear from Professor Özlem Altıok, a sociologist specializing in international studies and women's and gender studies at the University of North Texas. She'll walk us through what needs to be done to stop femicides in Turkey and why addressing the root causes of gender-based violence is critical to finding real solutions.
What needs to be done to stop femicides in Turkey is the same as what needs to be done to stop femicides in other places. Gender-based violence against women, of which femicides are the extreme end, are a big problem in all the societies, because all of the societies, to varying degrees, are fundamentally patriarchal. What that means is they have historically been male-centered, and societies in which men hold economic, political, military, and cultural power over women. And this lies at the root of the problem of gender-based violence against women. And this is what perpetuates the problem of violence and femicides. So if gender inequality, if women's subordination is the problem, the solution is to deal with that root cause. So the solution to end gender-based violence and to stop femicides is to advance gender equality. When we embrace the principle of gender equality and we actually work to make that a reality, then we can have a chance at ending violence. But what is happening in Turkey today, actually since 2010, when the then Prime Minister and today's President Erdogan declared he does not believe in the equality of women and men, is a complete regression from whatever progress had been made. And thanks to women's rights advocates, thanks to feminists, there had been a lot of progress. And whatever we have today in terms of the laws and in terms of the kind of general awareness of the public is thanks to those struggles. Okay, so when we talk about ending femicides, we have to talk about advancing gender equality. This is very well known. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's so well known that it's over decades of work has produced domestic laws and international treaties, such as the Istanbul Convention, for instance. The Istanbul Convention stipulates the 4 Ps, right? The 4 Ps: prevention, protection, prosecution, and policies, an integrated policy framework that does all of these things with the idea that advancing gender equality should be guiding all of this work. So in terms of prevention, what are we talking about? We're talking about changing attitudes and gender roles that make, violence against women acceptable. So in order to change that, we need to think about how media presents, how media professionals talk about femicides, instead of talking about it as a murder committed in the heat of passion, or focusing on these sensationalized romantic aspects of the relationship. Media in Turkey and in other places should be focusing on this as a serious crime. There should be awareness raising in that realm, both in the media, in the educational environment, from when kids are really small, all the way up to having courses on gender on college campuses. There should be programs that emphasize the harmful effects of traditional ideas about, what men and boys are supposed to do, or what women are supposed to or not supposed to do, wear, say, etc. So these are all the preventative measures that the Istanbul Convention stipulates and obligates states to undertake. Similarly, protection of survivors, protection of people who've been subjected, women who've been subjected to, not just women, actually everyone who've been subjected to gender-based violence, needs support services. They need shelters, they need information, they need rape crisis or sexual violence centers. Even though Turkish domestic law stipulates that every municipality that has more than 100,000 inhabitants should open up a shelter, we are far, far from that. I think there are about 30 shelters in all of Turkey. That's more than 80 million people. And there is not a single rape crisis center. There isn't a hotline dedicated just to domestic violence or violence against women. The hotline itself has, anybody who has a social service need, from veterans to children to women, can call. So these are all problems in terms of, how best you can protect victims, protect survivors. Because we also know that a lot of women who are killed by men in Turkey are killed by men they know. Like the overwhelming majority are related to the men who killed them. They're either ex-husbands or husbands that they're trying to separate from, or fiancés or boyfriends, etc. So this is a big problem that we are not protecting women, even women who have applied to seek, protection orders. Many women whose dead bodies are recovered and their purses contain these documents that they have gone to the police, that they have gone to the courts, and they have protection orders that failed to protect them. So similarly, there is a prosecution, like the access to justice and the ability to get justice once women are in courts, in the justice system or the injustice system. So all of these are things that we know work, things that, if they were done effectively, the 4 Ps, preventative measures, protective measures, measures to more effectively prosecute perpetrators, and a set of policies that uphold gender equality and human rights, including human rights of women, along with, data collection, so that we have a better picture of the problem and the prevalence of the problem. So the Istanbul Convention lays out actually what needs to be done. The domestic law number 6284 in Turkey also does a fairly good job of laying out what needs to be done. The problem is that it is not implemented. Not only is it not implemented, the domestic law, as we saw in 2021, with the stroke of a pen of the president, the international treaty that Turkey was the first to sign, the one I've been talking about, Istanbul Convention, was gone. It's not gone, it's there. And by its laws, Turkey is actually, I think, still obligated to uphold it. But the president withdrew from that treaty. So all of these send a signal that, those who rule Turkey today are not interested in ending femicides. I know this may sound like a harsh thing to say, but all signs point to that. Because if you don't believe in gender equality, and if you unlawfully withdraw from a treaty whose sole purpose is to end gender-based violence against women, that means you're not interested in solving this problem.
Professor Özlem Altıok has outlined the key challenges in addressing femicide, the necessity of enforcing existing laws, strengthening institutional frameworks, and advancing gender equality. While Turkey has legal mechanisms in place, the lack of consistent implementation and political commitment continues to undermine efforts to protect women. The issue extends beyond policy. It requires societal engagement and accountability at all levels. Ensuring lasting change depends on sustained attention from lawmakers, civil society, and the media. Thank you for listening to Orient Brief. If you found this episode insightful, consider sharing it and staying engaged with the conversation. Until next time.